And welcome to another very special episode of The Breakdown, X's and O's. And we're not talking hugs and kisses, ladies and gentlemen, because today is the week of the 2024 NFL Draft. So that means it is a very special episode, maybe one of the most important episodes to date of The Breakdown, because the amount of time and effort that's been put into this draft analysis by us.
By Connor.
Well, by us, we're a team, so we're a team.
By Connor.
But the NFL vet will go over these picks. Now, this is the first time that I have trades in my mock draft. So I came up with certain trades based off trade capital that these teams have that I think will make sense. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I think it'll be very interesting.
Let's go. It's your world, baby. It's your world.
No Gator shirt.
I don't have it.
It's probably packed up somewhere.
Yeah. I don't have I haven't finished. I don't know if I told Robbie I haven't even finished unpacking and packing.
Hold up. Let's restart. I didn't give you a proper introduction. So, to my right is the 5-year NFL vet, the ex-NFL DB, the man that y'all all came to see, the man, the myth, the legend, Nate Ness. Ooh, I was busting rhymes with that one. I didn't mean to, but I was. So, I know you like to do your little thing, so let me put the banner up and ask you the age-old question. What is up, Nate?
Nothing much. It's a Tuesday, beautiful Tuesday. My son has his track. He's running for state, so I had to send Tyler a message earlier. Again, it's Tuesday leg day. So but before I get into it, I have to shout out to my children. Tyler, Nemo, Demi, I love you guys. DQ, love you. It's just a beautiful day. Again, Tyler's running. I'm hoping to hear back from him later on this evening about his track meet. This guy is just talented. And I'm blessed. God has been too good to me with my children and my family. I'm just humbled. But what's going on with you, Connor? What's going on with you?
I'm trying to freaking get a job for the summer. I'll tell you what. I got
But you cooking that gravy. You got that gravy.
I am. I do have that gravy, but I'm trying to go apply for places that you really need experience to work. But I'm trying to cook a little bit with gravy, little gravy with C. Davy, so that these guys will kind of be like, oh well, we see this guy really wants to learn.
Yeah, you won't learn until somebody gives you an opportunity and you develop the experience. Somebody has. All you need is, in a crazy world, I was told this by a teammate. You can hear 1,000 no's. That's fine. All you need is that one yes. That one yes.
And I have a side hustle too. I have another job ish. My best buddy was like, I was talking to him the other day. He's got a bone doctor grandfather. Shout out to him. Yeah, bone doctor. And he was like, well, I need a couple projects I need help on. Do you mind working with some of these projects for me? I said, yeah, I'll work with you. And so it's pretty good money. Give me a little extra money. I got to buy a couple things. I want to buy some stuff for my car. I want to fix my phone because I don't get me started on my phone. But that's about up with me till I get my real job, my full-time summer job. We'll see what happens there. But I want to address this question before we get started. Who's faster, Nate? You or Tyler?
In the 100 and the 60, I'm faster than Tyler. In the 200, he eats me. He'll eat me up. he like really will embarrass me. Like it's not even fun. Like he will embarrass me when it comes to like in the 200. That's his that's what he does. That's what he does. Matter of fact, I'm gonna send you this video. And you'll see like Tyler. Wow, that's all I can
He'll
say.
he'll embarrass you, kind of like when he dunked on you that one time.
Like, chill out.
Well, Nate, let's kind of take it slower. This might be a little longer video, and if it
Okay.
is, and y'all either stay for a longer video or you leave at the normal time, whatever y'all decide to do is up with for you. But before we kind of get into our final first round mock draft, is there anything you would like to say to kind of preface or acknowledge, educate, anything you want to say before we get into it?
When the draft, this is the first domino of the season. I let you know football is getting ready to kick back off, and we're getting back into the swing of things. This is the first domino that falls. Um, you're looking at teams that are drafting, to build the team to again to this each draft is a team is trying to get better than what they was the year before. You may not understand certain draft picks, certain draft trades of some sort, but you got to understand the aspect of they're trying to get better. So I know sometimes it's hard, but just trust the process.
All right, I like that. So before we get into this, let's do this little segment up. So, because I mean, we said earlier, it's time. Let's eat a little gravy with C Davy before we get into the first pick. Because I kind of want to talk about the draft just a little bit before we get into it. Because a lot of time's been spent with this draft. I actually spent about an hour doing these banners and probably about
Hmm.
I we've done what helps a lot is because we've done two mock drafts before. It's easier for me to say, okay, well, is this the pick I want to go with? And
Hmm.
so now that this is our third mock draft, I came to a decision that I want to have break down official picks. And so what these picks are players that have been in picked by this team in all three mock drafts that we've had. And there are a couple. And so we have our official breakdown picks, people that have stayed consistent. And so I'll point those out when we get to them because there's a couple people that want to say, I think this guy, I've said it since the first that this guy's going to be on this team. And if he is, then sweet. I've been calling it for a couple months now. And I guess that's it. I mean, I guess let's just jump right into it because it's going to be a minute. Now, the Chicago Bears are on the clock, and I've said my piece that I've wanted to say in the past. But we this pick's pretty concrete. It's pretty concrete
Yeah.
now. There's not really changing this. People are saying, hey, this guy's gonna be the next pick of the Chicago Bears. Now we look back and we think, okay, well, let's go to my original pick first. So originally it's Caleb Williams. So they say, hey, this guy's going to be next pick of the Chicago Bears. Well, let's look at USC. So I like to look at a lot of college. A lot of my picks are like college aspects. A lot of when I see players in college is how they transfer to the NFL. I was a big CJ Stroud guy coming out of college, and when he transferred to the NFL, really good. I was really proud of myself for calling it. Bryce Young, I called that too.
You
So when I
called
see
you were
guys,
on with Bryce Young. You were spot.
yes. Well, it's just because like they're spoiled in college, and it's almost like a kid. You spoil a kid throughout his whole life. It really don't have to work for nothing. What do you expect when it's time to work? They're not going to do much because it's time to work. They're not going to know that work ethic. Same with those people. So we have a guy who definitely has a work ethic. He's won the Heisman like Bryce Young, but there's something about him that still makes me wonder if he'll be able to transfer in the NFL. Now we look at these USC quarterbacks in the past, and they haven't really transferred the way they're supposed to. The last one, probably Carson Palmer. If we had to be honest, that long ago was probably Carson Palmer. The
Carson
last
Palmer
pretty
was the
good one.
best. I think he was the best out of all, like the Matt Liners, John David Booties, Mark Sanchez, Sam Darnold. I'm missing somebody. I know I'm missing somebody, so please forgive me. Sam Darnold. I think that's it.
I want to
I
say
feel
there's
like
like one more
well,
guy.
I feel like we're missing. I know Robbie. If you know what, just yeah. But I feel like um I'm still missing somebody. We said Matt Leinart, John David Booty, Carson Palmer, uh,
I mean, you don't want to count
Mark,
Matt Barkley, do you?
Matt Barkley. Absolutely, Matt Barkley. Just USC. You know, you know what? Connor, it's show night. Come on, Michael. You're Jordan. I'm Pippen tonight. Let's go.
Well, Matt Barkley, Rob said Matt Barkley. Perfect. So
Hold
this pick's pretty concrete. If you want to watch what I've just tried to say about Caleb Williams, I'm done talking about him. I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not the biggest fan of any quarterback going into the Chicago situation, actually.
No, it's
And if
not.
Bruce is watching, I'm sorry.
Bruce
There's
won't get.
just something about him and Chicago that does not mesh in my mind. And if it does mesh, I will say that I'm wrong and I will admit my faults. But I, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't even know Matt Castle went to USC.
Wait, can we? Do we really gotta say Matt Castle sucked because
Did
he
he
had?
go to USC? Really?
Yes, he did. He was Carson's backup for like 4 years.
Was he actually?
Yeah, he really was. Like until it was a year that because he was drafted by the Patriots, and it was a year that Tom Brady tore his ACL when they completed they him and Tom Brady and Carson Palmer tore their ACLs in the exact same way. So they outlawed a certain tackle at the knees for the quarterback. But Matt Castle came in and had a hell of a year for the Patriots.
Good job, Matt Castle. And then he signed probably a Robinson team contract like Mike Glennon or something. But I'm going to do this a little bit different. I'm going to say, hey, the pick is in with the pick. And if there's a trade, I'm going to say there's a trade. But right now, Chicago Bears stay put. They want to draft their franchise quarterback, and the pick is in Chicago. And the first overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft is none other than Caleb Williams,
You
quarterback
don't
out of
say.
USC. Yeah, we're going to stick with it. We're going to stick with it.
Okay.
So that means the Washington Commanders are on the clock. And I had a really hard time deciding if there's going to be a
The
team.
second and third picks were going to be like the hardest ones because they can flip flop.
Well, not even that. It's just if these teams would trade for the right price. So I had to kind of consider, hey, will the Commanders or the Patriots trade for the right price? And in my mind, it's like they can't. So originally, Jaden Daniels, QB out of LSU. I've seen a lot of Drake May, but of what I've seen from Drake May, he was really good. The same with Caleb Williams. They were both really good in the 2022 season when Caleb Williams won the Heisman. But both of them had a drastic downhill in their stats and in their play and everything in this past season. And it's like, well, even though you could say, okay, well, let's pull out of this guy's archive and say, okay, he won the Heisman, he did this and he did that. It's like that last year of college really matters to me, especially it really matters to me. And so when you have a downhill drop in stats your final year of college, how exactly is that going to transfer into the NFL? And we've seen it, and it's not very good. I mean, we take a look at Bryce Young, for example. He didn't pan out. And I'm not saying that there's not time for him to pan out. He had a bad rookie season. That's fine. Maybe there's time for him. But there is one guy in this class that did not have a decline in his stats. He had freaking Madden video game numbers this past season,
Yeah.
won the Heisman, and the Washington Commanders are going to look at that, especially hiring Cliff Kingsbury as their offensive coordinator. He is the Heisman mastermind. They stay at number 2. The pick is in, Nate. They draft Jaden Daniels out of LSU. This will be the best quarterback in this draft class. Mark my words. He's not going into an amazing
Hold on.
situation.
Hold on. Tuesday, April 23rd. It's a 8:15. Okay.
Best quarterback in this
All right.
draft class.
All right. Let's go.
So the New England Patriots are on the clock, and they're deciding, hey, do we want to trade this? And I think the Patriots will trade for the right price. The Patriots will trade for the right price, but will they get that right price on draft night? Originally, I have the Patriots picking Drake May, quarterback out of North Carolina. Now we see someone like the Giants who are in dire need of a quarterback, or the Vikings who are in dire need of a quarterback, and these teams know it. So these teams are going to be like, okay, well, there's got to be a right price, especially with these people with these desperate needs, right? So whether or not the Patriots get the right price on draft night, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say they stay at number 3. They don't get that trade they so highly desire, and the pick is in, Nate. They stay at number 3 and decide to punch their ticket with a North Carolina quarterback named Drake May.
Drake
And so
May.
our first 3 picks are our official breakdown picks. They are the first 3 guys that have stayed consistent throughout all 3 mock drafts.
Right, right.
And let's see if that stays for number 4. So the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock. I'm kind of speed running these first couple ones, but
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
might even make an hour out of this show. We'll see.
yeah.
The Arizona Cardinals are on the clock, and they traded Hollywood Brown, which was their best receiver by far. And so they need a receiver. They need a receiver bad. And so you have a guy who is the 4th best prospect ever coming out of college. And the
Mm-hmm.
only 3 people in front of him was
All
Megatron, Randy Moss, and Larry Fitz. Only 3
first
people in front of him.
Hall of Famers.
Easily. Probably the all top 5 wide receivers of all time. If you want to
Mm-hmm.
argue that, you can, but I think they're all top 5 wide receivers. I'm talking about Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State. Now, one thing with him, he's not showed up to much. He has not showed up to much because there is that issue of, I know I'm good, so what if I perform at a level that I'm not always performing at? Would it ruin my draft chances? And the answer is yes.
You know what? But also, men lie, women lie. The film doesn't. He's got enough film. He's got enough film. You know that his game speaks for himself. And again, he's the best prospect in the draft. He's the best prospect with the most upside in the draft. Him right there.
And so, with that being said, because the Cardinals are such in dire need of a quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to trade. They're going to wide receiver. Sorry, excuse me. The pick is in, Nate. They're going to stay with number 4, and they're going to continue to get the 4th best prospect ever as a wide receiver and get Marvin Harrison Jr., which is another official breakdown pick that stayed consistent throughout all 4 mock drafts, or 3. Sorry. So we get to the Chargers. The Chargers are on the clock, Nate. And so this brings me to my first dilemma of the night. Do I have somebody like the Vikings or the Giants trade up so that they know that they can draft the next best quarterback in this draft class? Even though I'm not a big J.J. McCarthy fan, he's probably the 4th best quarterback prospect in this draft class, arguably. So do we see someone like the Giants or the Vikings trading up? And because the Vikings are in such dire need of a quarterback, this is something that someone like Jim Harbaugh takes advantage of. He's been in salesman mode these past couple months
Mm-hmm.
saying, hey, J.J. McCarthy is the best
Yeah.
quarterback in
So
this draft
somebody,
class.
so somebody can. We know what the top 4 picks are. With the LA Chargers sitting at 5, it's a great golden opportunity for you to accumulate draft capital. Somebody you speak up, talk up, oh, he's a first round talent and all these things. You build up the player that you coached in college. For somebody to be desperate enough to, hey, I need to trade up to get him. Hi, MJ, you look amazing. I need to trade up to get him before somebody else does. Jim Harbaugh is when I say a salesman, a salesman. He can sell salt to a snail. He can sell water to the water boy.
Water to the wall. You had such a perfect rhyme right there.
Yes. So he's doing the right thing. I see a team trading up. But let's
But it's either the Giants or the Vikings for this pick, because the Giants realistically could go up to number 4 too. But this is my issue with that. The Cardinals want Marvin Harrison Jr. A lot of
Mm.
people want Marvin Harrison Jr. And so the Cardinals could trade back, but they have already two first round draft picks. Is that something they do? I don't know. I don't think so. This will be the first trade. Now, like we said, Jim Harbaugh's in salesman mode. He's saying, hey, this is the best quarterback in this draft class. If you want him, come get him. Because we're not going to do much with the 5th overall pick. So come and get him. So I think he's throwing that bait out to the water.
Mm-hmm.
He's setting that line, and he's going to yoink it right when someone hits. And there's a team that is in such desperate need of a quarterback they're going to hit. So originally I had the Chargers picking Brock Bowers. So that won't be the case because the Chargers will trade this pick. So let's go to our little trade alert. Let's go to our little trade alert. So with the Vikings' first two picks, so the first two rounds, they got the 11 to 23 overall pick. So they will trade the Los Angeles Chargers. Their two first-round draft picks, probably another pick. I didn't go that far into depth with the trade for the 5th overall pick in this draft class, so that they can get J.J. McCarthy over the Giants, or they could get Bo Nix or Michael Penix. Whoever they decide to do, that guy's going to be J.J. McCarthy. So the Vikings trade up to number 5, and they're ready. They know who they want. The pick is in, Nate. And although I do not like this player, they are in so desperate need, they have to make a move. And so a lot of people are saying this is going to be the move. I did not come up with this. I'll say this. I did not come up with this pick. I watched a lot of people talking about it, and so I just kind of came into an agreement. A lot of these picks I did on my own. This one I will say that I kind of got from other people that are kind of collaborating on it. And so the Vikings take J.J. McCarthy out of the 5th spot. I don't like this pick, but I have to take my bias out of it and say, hey, the Vikings are so desperate. This is something that just might happen at number 5.
Okay.
What do you think, Nate? You got anything to say about it or not?
I really don't think it, because you know what, Jack just said something that was so prevalent, so that makes sense. Brock Bowers, I don't see them passing up on Brock Bowers. I'm sorry, unless the offer is too good to resist. Brock Bowers at the number 5 position. This is your, what change the game tight end. But again, for the right price, I'll trade out of that number 5 pick, because again, we're talking about accumulating draft capital. So I'm gonna roll with this one right here, but I'm leaning more 60-40. I'm leaning more 60-40 at least, that the Chargers
stay at number 5
and select Bowers. But let's go ahead. Let's go.
So the Giants are on the clock next. Originally, we have Malik Neighbors. They want the most explosive. I think he's the most explosive player in this draft class. Offensively, for sure. Defensively, maybe we can't put the defense with it, but offensively, he's the most explosive player in this draft class, in my opinion. And so the Giants see that. Now, the issue with the Giants trading up for a quarterback is if you trade up to the number 4 or 5 spot to draft someone like J.J. McCarthy, this is an issue with your cap and your numbers. You already pay Daniel Jones $30-40 million a year to play quarterback, which is highway robbery, might I add. If you were to draft a quarterback with the 4th or 5th overall pick, you would be paying him probably almost $10 million a year to play on your team. Now, combine that with already Daniel Jones's, I don't want to call him a bum, but bum self. That's a lot of change for not a lot of product.
I want to tell you something about, if they trade up for, this will be a mistake of the Giants. At 6, I take Malik Neighbors. Because you need to give Daniel. If you're gonna do anything, get him either some good linemen and protection, and get him some weapons. You can't give up on Danny Dimes just yet after you paid him. And Danny Dimes took you to the playoffs. Danny Dimes actually took you to the playoffs and won a playoff game. So I'm on the fence about them drafting and being so quick to. That's one of the things you dislike is that you like people will just turn their backs and just give up on players so quickly. I feel that your original pick with Malik Neighbors, it makes sense, but I want to hear this draft scenario. So this trade scenario.
Now let's talk about it like this. Now, say I just, my grill sputted out. I need a new grill. It's old. It just went away. And I went and bought me a George Foreman grill. Went and bought me one
Ooh.
of them George Foreman grills. Yep. But I kept consistently putting, it's an expensive grill, but I kept putting cheap meat on it every time I used it. And so I'd be like, why does this meat not taste, any good? I bought this new grill. It's the grill's fault for this meat not tasting good. When in reality, I just kept buying this cheap meat and it was just the quality of the meat. Now you have this expensive grill in New York called Daniel Jones, but you keep feeding cheap meat on the grill. Now let's see if we can get some expensive meat on this grill. So the pick is in, Nate. And who do the Giants pick? There's no trade scenario at number 6. They stick with Malik Neighbors and they put finally some expensive meat on a George Foreman grill. And if that meat doesn't taste good, you can get rid of that George Foreman grill and buy you another one.
Mm-hmm.
So let's keep going. The number 7th overall pick belongs to the Tennessee Titans. Originally, I have Joe Alt going to the Titans. They need a tackle. They traded for one, but he's apparently he's like a depth player. He's not supposed to be a starter. And I agree. My buddy's a big Titans guy. He hasn't shown really any flashes to be a starter. So Nate, there's no trade scenario here. The pick is in, and the Tennessee Titans decide to stay with Joe Alt out of Notre Dame.
But yes,
So he
yes.
stays here. They got Calvin Ridley. They just Will Levis is going to have a really
He's
hard
going.
time without Derrick Henry this
Yeah.
season. And so this is going to be his, I don't want to call it make or break moment, but if he performs well without Derrick Henry, I can see him staying in Tennessee for more than just a couple more years.
Well, this is going to be a big telling year, and it's going to be a big telling year for the offensive coordinator. Again, we talk about the players so much, but also big years for the coordinators, offensive, defensively, and for the head coach. You got to put your guys in the right position and whatnot to succeed. So I love this pick. Protect the young player. You got him a weapon on the outside and Calvin Ridley, and then if I'm not mistaken, what's the receiver name that they already have? He's a first round draft pick. He was the Ole Miss if I'm not mistaken. Trey.
Traylon Burks went
Trey
to Arkansas, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
I think it was Arkansas, wasn't it?
Sorry, with no miss. Okay, I thought
No,
he was there
AJ
with,
Brown was Ole
I thought he
Miss.
was there. I thought he was there with AJ Brown and them.
Nah, Traylon Burks is Arkansas. Let me look it up.
All right.
Just so yeah, Arkansas. I thought
Okay.
so.
I thought he was at Ole Miss with AJ. But great pick. Great pick. Let's go ahead.
Let's go on ahead with the number 8th overall pick. Now, we have the Atlanta Falcons going with our 8 overall pick. And they don't trade here. They just got Kirko Chains with the big old thanks Rob. Arky. Burks went to Arky. They got Kirko with the big old deal saying, hey, you just tore your Achilles, but yet we're gonna sign you this large chunk of change. Hopefully it don't turn out like a Daniel Jones situation in New York. But we'll see. They have a lot of good weapons. So offensively, they have Bijan Robinson turned out really good. They have a really good 1-2 punch at running back in Atlanta. I like it over there. I hate it that they're in the same division as the Saints, but
Mm-hmm.
I like it as a standpoint of they're doing the right moves. So offensively, I that's not where you turn to in this draft with your first pick in this draft. You don't turn offensively. You're doing the right things offensively. You got to fix up that defense. That was one of your weak points. You got your quarterback that you said, hey, we are a playoff team without a quarterback. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have our quarterback, and so you got that quarterback. So you really don't need any more offensive moves right now with
Mm-hmm.
this first pick. So let's go defense. Originally, I had Dallas Turner. Uh, in my opinion, this is the best defensive player in the draft. We saw it with Will Anderson playing just pretty much the same position as Dallas Turner. He was more of a middle inside linebacker, but he
Yeah.
played outside a lot too. It was just he could play everywhere. It just depended on where they wanted him to go. He played a lot. He was a monster. But playing with Will Anderson in that same defense, it's like, okay, well, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn, hey, this guy just got third overall, 2023 draft class, won Defensive Rookie of the Year. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it
Don't.
ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's stay with the Alabama. Oh yeah, they're gonna lose draft picks,
Oh,
but it's not gonna be their first. It's probably not gonna be their number 8 overall. They
no, it
wouldn't do
won't
that
be this year. It'll be
next
the
year.
following year. Yeah, it'll be the following year.
So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The pick is in, Nate, and they're going to stay with Dallas Turner out of Alabama.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things you can look at in college for NFL trends. Quarterbacks at Alabama, that's a big trend that I said, hey, Bryce Young ain't gonna be good because of this quarterback trend. You can say that with their linebackers too. They have had outstanding linebackers. I mean, we could take Roman Harper, for example, coming out of Alabama, going to the New Orleans Saints back when they won that Super Bowl. He was fantastic. A lot of Alabama's had a lot of pretty good linebackers. So let's stay with it and let's pick somebody that we pretty much know is going to transfer all right in the NFL. So number 9, the Chicago Bears. I had a hard time thinking that they were going to trade back on this one. But they have a chance to get Caleb Williams, a pretty good weapon right here. So originally I had Rome Odunze out of Washington. Third best wide receiver in this draft class. I think it was safe to say that. I mean, if you want to put him above Malik Neighbors, he's a more consistent wide receiver than Malik Neighbors, I would say. But he doesn't have that explosiveness. He doesn't have that size Malik Neighbors has. And so, but he's very good. Now, Chicago looks at this and they're like, okay, we can trade back or we can get something with Caleb Williams to pair with Caleb Williams so that we're going to keep adding to his situation in Chicago. This will be the best situation and first overall draft pick has ever gone to in the history of the draft by far, especially if you stick with this pick. So, Nate, the pick is in and they don't trade. They stay with Rome Odunze out of Washington. They get and I wish they would go defense on this one, but the issue with that is, hey, we're Chicago. We had a top 5 defense the second half of the season,
You can build off of last year,
so
but I
we're
mean,
gonna just
you want to build off of how you finished.
you can take defensive players later in the draft, but you might not have a Rome Odunze later in the
Yeah,
draft. So
he might not be there. So
this is
yeah,
what you pick at number 9.
okay.
So number 10 is the New York Jets. And so this is where I kind of got iffy. So let's pull up the original pick. They pick Olu Fashanu originally because you have Aaron Rodgers, who's 40 years old. He's pushing that retirement age where he just tore his Achilles too. So you're going
Mhm.
to take somebody like Olu Fashanu, a big body that you're going to say, hey, we want to protect our 40-year-old quarterback.
Investment.
We
He is
have
an
to.
investment.
Because that way, if we fortify our O line so well that we can maybe pull a Green Bay, get a quarterback under Aaron Rodgers, a young quarterback, learn underneath him. And so when he comes, he's going to come into a very good situation where he's not going to have a lot of pressure due to this O
Hmm.
line. So do they stick with this pick? Now, Brock Bowers is still available, Nate. Brock Bowers is still available. And so they just got rid of CJ Uzuma. And their starting tight end right now is Tyler Conklin, I believe. But is he good enough to be a starter in the NFL? Now, Aaron Rodgers has a lot of weapons. In the past, we don't see Aaron Rodgers throwing a whole lot to a tight end. Let's be for real. In the past, I mean, they brought in almost 40-year-old Mercedes Lewis one year to be the tight end for Aaron Rodgers, and I guarantee you that wasn't because they wanted Mercedes Lewis to be the next or to be Travis Kelsey and go catch deep route bombs. It was more of a blocking issue than anything, and they just wanted a tight end to do that, and so that's why they brought him in. And they're going to think the same way. Hey, if we get tight end Brock Bowers, he's not going to be a blocking tight end. He's going to be just like Travis Kelsey, where he runs out and he catches and does all this flashy stuff. So, with that into consideration, the pick is in, Nate. Do they pick Brock Bowers or do they pick Olu Fashanu and stay with it? I'm gonna say they stay. I'm gonna say they stay. Keep fortifying their O line so that when Aaron Rodgers is just able to retire, they can have a pretty good successor, and he's gonna be comfortable in that pocket if they decide to get a pocket passer. That's number 10, Nate.
Like that.
Now, number 11. Originally, you hated number 11. I know. Now, the Vikings were on the clock. I said, hey, you don't pick J.J. McCarthy because, look, you're going to put a dude that does not throw the ball. I mean, he
Mhm.
runs the ball. College is a pretty good indication of how they're going to perform in the NFL. Not always, but I mean, we can tell a lot of the time. And that's why a lot of these analysts are like, hey, this guy's going to be good. This guy's not going to be good. And we see someone like Brock Purdy who gets picked last in the draft and ends up being good in the NFL, which is insane. But you didn't like this last pick originally. I had Bo Nix because I could not see the Vikings putting somebody in an air raid offense that had not proven themselves to be an air
Exactly.
raid offense
Exactly.
quarterback. So it's
Exactly.
like I said, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole. How are you going to make that fit? And if you make it fit, fantastic. But I started thinking, I said, hey, look, Bo Nix is not a first round quarterback. There's no way he's going in the first round. Maybe later on, maybe. But he's probably second or third round quarterback. And so let's keep in mind the Chargers now have the number 11 pick. They don't have the number 5 anymore. We said, hey, the Vikings are going to trade up. So what do the Chargers do with this pick? So the pick is in, Nate, and they pick who they originally were going to pick with number 5 because he fell so far to 11, and they pick Brock Bowers with the number 11 pick because somehow, some way, he falls. Because Chicago's going to go, hey, we have Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett. We don't need them. The Jets want to fortify their O line. The Falcons want to pick a defensive player, and the Titans want to pick a tackle. So they pick Brock Bowers because he falls to 11.
I like
And,
it.
and so with this next pick, the Broncos are on the clock. And Sean Payton is he loves trading up in the draft. He loves it. He loves spending all his draft capital to get players that aren't going to be worth crap in the NFL. I mean, we've seen it with a bunch of tackles coming out of the Saints. And I hate to say it, but Saints are going to draft a tackle this draft class. I wanted Jared Verse so bad, but they won't draft him, unfortunately, because it's Saints. So originally, I said, hey, Sean Payton sees something in J.J. McCarthy that
And
nobody else sees.
the
And so for
Broncos.
the first 2 mock drafts, I had this pick because I could just see Sean Payton saying, hey, J.J. McCarthy, I'm biting on what Jim Harbaugh is going to say. Even though he's not the best quarterback in this draft class, well, guess what? I'm freaking Sean Payton. I'm going to make him the best quarterback in this draft class. But unfortunately, yes, thank you, Chad. Unfortunately, J.J. McCarthy is off the draft board. So you have to kind of go, do we want to take a chance on Bo Nix or do we want to just draft somebody that's going to that we know is going to be good in the NFL? Somebody that maybe the Saints were looking at in these past couple mock drafts. So Nate, they don't trade anybody. They the pick is in. They stay at number 12, and they actually draft Jared Verse out of Florida State, the guy that I wanted so bad on the Saints. It took a lot of my pride out of me to kind of put this pick at number 12 because that means that the Saints aren't going to have him at 14. So we'll see who the Saints pick at 14. In 13, now I love this pick at 13 originally. I love Michael Penix. You didn't like it, but I loved Michael Penix. And the more I watched people's final mock drafts, Nate, the more I saw this pick exactly because they have the mindset of, okay, we're going to bring Michael Penix into a new Antonio Pierce led team. Broncos are pretty good off the edge as it is, to be honest, and we'll see. Um, and Antonio Pierce led team, they don't know what to expect of him other than what his interim years were of told. So you have Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell on your quarterback depth right now, and you're saying, hey, do we want to add a third person to keep this competition as healthy as it gets, to kind of keep it a little cutthroat and rugged? And so the answer is if they're going to trade number 13, and if they trade back, are they still going to get this guy, Michael Penix Jr.? Because the more I saw more mock drafts, because I watched a little bit of other people's things like actual NFL analysts, they love this pick too. But it wasn't until right now that they love this pick. But I mean,
Mhm.
as you can see, our last mock draft, I had this pick going up. So this was a pick that I conjured, not anybody else's doing. I gave credit to all the other people with the trade up with J.J. McCarthy, but this pick I'm giving myself sole credit. And the pick is in, Nate. Do they stay with the quarterback And I think they just do. I love this pick so much that they're going to stay with Michael Penix Jr. They're going to pick him at number 13, and they're going to add more competition in Las Vegas and see who their starting quarterback is going to be in this next year.
I like it. I like it.
So we have 3 more picks rounding out this first half of the first round until we get into our little ad break. So originally, the New Orleans Saints, my team, Jared Verse, these last 2 mock drafts, I wanted a Jared Verse in a Saints uniform so
Mm-hmm.
bad. I just wanted to see him in a Saints uniform. Well, they got Chase Young. Cameron Jordan's only getting older. He's not getting any better. And I was like, well, let's have a Cameron Jordan successor. Let's get Jared Verse. And I guess Chase Young might be Cameron Jordan's successor, whatever. But now Jared Verse is off the table. And now if Jared Verse is off the table, it's like, okay, we're looking at 2 letters. We're looking at OT. And you know what that stands for, Nate?
Offensive tackle.
Offensive tackle. And so the Saints are in dire need of an offensive tackle. But we just had some pretty good offensive tackles go up. Do the Saints trade up to get an offensive tackle? No, they've done that too much in the past to get Trevor Penning. Didn't work out. And so the pick is in, Nate. And so the tackle that the Saints are going to pick with the number 14, they might reach a little with this one, especially due to the last mock drafts. They're going to get J.C. Latham out of Alabama.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick.
Because even though we've seen someone like Evan Neal coming out of Alabama as a tackle, who hasn't been the greatest tackle, it's like, well, Alabama obviously does something right. And so you take a chance with J.C. Latham. You don't draft up, or you don't trade up. You might trade down if you want to, maybe. You don't trade up. You just take the pick. If he works out, I hope he does. If he doesn't, oh well. And so I have this. It's maybe a little bit of a reach, but I like him right here. So we get to 15. And so originally I had the Indianapolis Colts picking their guy, Taron Arnold, who they think is the best quarterback in this draft class. But
He's really good.
I
said he's really good.
Yes, he is. But there's a person that's also really good that another team wants. And so to get number 15, you have to trade up. And so the team that has the number 17th overall pick is the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so there's a trade alert, Nate. The Jacksonville Jaguars decide to loan their division rival Colts their first round draft pick, maybe a 5th round or a 4th round to go with it and say, hey, we're going to trade up to 15 because we have a guy that you might draft at 15 that is our guy. The thing about the first round in the draft, you have to be cutthroat. If this is the guy you so highly desire, you have to go out and get him. And if that means trading up 2 spots to a team that you know is going to pick a cornerback, that means trading up 2 spots to pick a cornerback. So the pick is in, Nate. Do the Jacksonville Jaguars pick Taron Arnold like the Colts, or do they pick somebody else that I had going in the past mock draft? So at 15 is going to be Quinion Mitchell. They trade up, they get their guy. Yes, because the Colts obviously are also looking at Quinion Mitchell. Taron Arnold and Quinion Mitchell are the 2 best cornerbacks, in my opinion, in this draft class. They're looking at them too. They're saying, hey, we might draft him at 15, but they don't want anybody to know who they're drafting. So Jacksonville's probably going to give him a 1st or a 4th or a 1st and a 5th, trade up to 15 and pick their dude so they know that the Colts don't. So that's at number 15.
I like it.
Number 16. Originally, this is the Seattle Seahawks at number 16, Troy Fautanu, tackle out of Washington. Now, this dude is small enough. I've said it before. He's small enough to be a guard, which is what the Seattle Seahawks need. He's small enough to transfer to a guard, which he will. He will not stay as a tackle in the NFL. He will be a guard. And so, let's keep this kind of short and sweet. The pick is in, Nate. At 16, the Seattle Seahawks decide to stay with Troy Fautanu. And they pick him up, convert him to a guard, and he does I think he does pretty good.
Great pick.
But speaking of people doing great in the NFL, let's talk about somebody that can do really good in the insurance world, and that's Jeff Wertepney, where he provides you some very good car insurance.
Yes.
Here's to the grown-ups. Your car is now your office. stage, nursery. Shh, sorry. Erie Insurance offers products that lots of other companies don't. That's a big deal, and it's a good deal, too. And with Erie, you get your own independent agent, not a giant corporate call center or some online robot. You meet with a real person, like this.
Your local Erie agent is Building Block Insurance Group. Get a quote today at 704-464-4544.
Erie Insurance.
And when you call Jeff or Tedney at 704-464-4544, I feel like I'm on the end of like a have you or a loved one suffered from mesothelioma? The end of that commercial, where I say the number really like fast. But if you go ahead and call Jeff or Tedney at that number, I would say it again, but I don't want to jinx anything because you may or may not call him. Go ahead and ask him who he sees the Seahawks picking at number 16. And if he agrees with me, great. If he doesn't, I don't know. You might not have to buy his insurance.
Oh, wow.
I'm just kidding. Buy his insurance. He's a good guy. Jeff, if you're watching this, I'm not slandering your insurance, I promise. But let's keep going. Nate, is there anything you'd like to say before we keep going to the second half of
Let's
this?
hit this. Let's hit this like a snowball. A snowball going hill. I want to hear. I'm interested. Come on.
So 17, we have just said, hey, the Colts and Jaguars swap picks.
Mm-hmm.
So the Colts have 17. Originally, the Jaguars picked Quinion Mitchell, but they're going to trade up and they're going to get their guy. And the Colts are okay with it because the Jaguars give them a nice little fourth round, first round to go ahead and get another cornerback. So the Colts still get a guy. I don't know if it's their guy. And the pick is in, Nate, and they're going to actually stick with Terry Arnold in this draft. They're going to pick him up, but, it's going to be a couple picks back. And they're okay with it. That's who they were going to pick originally, and they get in a fourth-round pick to add with it.
Okay.
So let's keep going. Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock. You have a decision to say, hey, do we pick an offensive player here, or do we pick a defensive tackle? And so I had to look back at DJ Reader left Cincinnati. I'm not sure what team he's on now. Let me see. Do you know what team he's on now? I don't know.
I don't know.
He's on the Lions now. That's right. He went to the Lions. That's right. Now he's a good old Clemson boy. But originally I had them picking a tackle. And in my mind is Joe Burrow is so injury prone. He's never since that Super Bowl, he's never on the football field. It feels like he's always out with injury. And so the Cincinnati Bengals, because of this, just signed a 2-year exclusive rights deal or something with Jake Browning, who was the backup for this season, who kind of led the Bengals to an okay season. And so let's just stick with the same logic Aaron Rodgers and all these other teams are saying, hey, we have an injury-prone quarterback behind us, so let's protect them the best we can. Mm-hmm. So, Nate, the pick is in, and they stick with Talise Fuaga,
a
tackle out of Oregon State, because you have this injury-prone quarterback, and you want to keep him protected.
Nothing like having a good lineman to protect your quarterback. They're so valuable.
Hopefully Joe Burrow doesn't have another season-ending injury, but, knock on wood if he does. He makes a lot of money either way, so no matter if he's on the couch or on the football field.
Yep.
So 19. And this was interesting. The Rams were on the clock. You saw someone like Aaron Donald leave.
Retire.
And so, retire. Yeah. Leave is a bad word. Retire. He retired. He's gone. So originally I had Byron Murphy out of Texas going to the Rams. But I looked into it and I was like, well, why did I pick another? We had someone like Kobe Turner who did pretty good. His rookie this past season. It was his rookie season. He was a pretty good draft stud for the Rams. And so because you run they run like a 3-4, I think the Rams do 3-4. They don't run a 4-3 because I don't think they run a 4-3. They run their scheme is like a 3-4 or something, and it pushes. I don't know. Somebody correct me if I'm just yapping, but they push Aaron Donald to an end or D tackle sometime, depending on the scheme. And so let's stick with that logic. I mean, sometimes Aaron Donald's an end, sometimes he's a D tackle. And so because he plays majority D tackle, I was like, okay, well, they're going to pick a D tackle to replace Aaron Donald. Well, you have somebody in Kobe Turner who you just drafted in a later round that you're like, hey, this guy's pretty good. Let's keep him there. And we don't want to replace him because we only have one D tackle spot in our defensive scheme. Let's keep him there and let's draft somebody on the end. And maybe we can bring him in just like we did with Aaron Donald. So the pick is in, Nate. And they end up picking Laiatu Latu, edge out of UCLA.
Not a bad pick.
Because of that scheme mindset.
Yeah. They in certain packages, whether they're in the even front, which is even front is 4 down, or if they're in the odd front, which is a 3 down. So certain packages and whatnot where Aaron Donald will line up. Sometimes it's a tackle, sometimes like a DN. But it's just depending on the package. But yeah, I like the pick.
And I just had to be conservative with that one. I was like, well, if you pick a D tackle, you're going to want to play more of a 4-3 scheme.
Exactly.
But that's not what they always play, which is why Aaron Donald was flip-flopped a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I just was conservative, say, hey, they're going to pick an edge. Depending on what they do with it is up to them. So that's what they're going to pick. So the number 20 pick, the Steelers are on the clock. Originally, I had Jackson Powers Johnson, center out of Oregon. If there's a team that needs a center, it is this team. But, centers and guards are kind of interchangeable. We can kind of put them back and forth depending on, that interior O-line is kind of, we can flip-flop it if need be. Well, I want to say, Nate, that there is going to be another trade happening at the number 20 pick.
Ooh.
And so there is another team that also needs a guard/center called the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're actually at the number 21 spot. But just so they know that the Steelers don't take their guy, they're going to trade up just one spot higher to get somebody that maybe the Steelers might draft, maybe they won't. Maybe they stick with the center, maybe they go with the guard. So the Dolphins end up trading up to number 20. They now have the number 20 overall pick, and they pick Graham Barton out of Duke. So they say, hey,
he was a good run blocker.
And, Raheem Mostert had 20-something touchdowns this past season. Yeah. So they're going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball. We're going to take this pick. We're going to say we're going to trade up so the Steelers don't pick our guy because this is the guy in Miami that they're looking at. Mm-hmm. So that's what they're going to go with.
I like it.
Just so we stay our little cutthroat, rugged self. Okay. So let's keep going. So originally, Graham Barton was the 21st pick to the Dolphins. Yeah. And so Dolphins trade up, take their guy. So the Steelers are at the 21st pick, and the pick is in. They're going to take the guy I had originally because they need a center so bad. They're going to pick Jackson Powers Johnson. You pick this right here.
Yeah.
And so now they both get their people. The Dolphins give the Steelers just a little bit of extra something.
Yeah.
And they get their guy. So, number 22. Originally, Nate Wiggins out of Clemson. If there's a team that I could see this guy being on, it's the Eagles.
The Eagles, yeah, because they have a need for him and his talents.
But they also like smaller corners. They don't like, not that they don't like them, but we've seen they don't have super big corners coming to Philadelphia. I mean, Big Play Slay, to be honest, is not the biggest corner in the game. He's not the biggest corner in the game, but he has a lot of – the reason he's still playing at 30, 33, 34 years old is because he has a lot of brain that a lot of corners don't have. His football IQ is unmatched compared to some. Mm-hmm. So, knowing this, Big Play Slay got injured the past playoff game against the Buccaneers.
Yeah,
and so
that was low.
Yes. Do we stick with this pick to say we need a successor for him because he's getting up there in age and we need to have somebody that he can kind of teach and mentor?
Mm-hmm.
So the pick is in, Nate. Do they reach? Do they stay with Nate Wiggins? And so I think they just stay with Nate Wiggins and pick him up right there. So they'll stay right there with Nate Wiggins, and we'll be off on our merry way to 23. So originally we had the Texans in our first mock draft have the 23rd overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
We had the Vikings have the 23rd overall pick.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, Tyke Smith's not first-round talent. Rob, come on. Get the bias out of here. Tyke Smith is more of a safety, I thought. I saw him at the Senior Bowl, and he was a safety. Is he a
Was he?
corner? Is he a cornerback going to the cornerback in the NFL?
I don't know.
He might be, but when he was at the Senior Bowl, he was a safety. He was lined up in safety. Oh, he's a slot defender. Okay, that makes sense. Thanks, Jack. So, 23, we had the Texans. The Vikings traded for the 23rd pick. The Vikings. And now, because we've said the Vikings have traded up, they don't get their guy, Tyler Guyton, anymore because now the pick belongs to the Los Angeles Chargers. Oh, okay, Rob. Well, do you see the Eagles taking 2 cornerbacks? It's up to you. You can play either. Yeah.
He can play either.
Yeah, he can play either. You're right. But he was at safety, which confused me. So now we have the Chargers picking this up. And so you have to think, okay, well, the Chargers draft an O lineman. What is one of their biggest needs? They draft an O lineman, and you say, okay, well, maybe they do because Justin Herbert got injured last season. And they had a pretty rough run with old Easton Stick, whatever his name is. Easton, whatever his name is. I can't remember. Pretty rough run. I mean, it was hard to watch him. He threw like 3 picks in the span of a couple minutes against the Raiders. It was so hard to watch. But now you say, hey, do the Chargers want to protect their line? I mean, do they want to protect their quarterback, fortifying their line?
They have to.
And I just had to ask, like, do they though? Do they though, Nate? This line is so stacked. This draft class is so stacked. Do they get him? Do they get one in the later rounds? Well, I was also looking at their depth chart and a couple of their needs, and one of the biggest needs I came across was a defensive tackle. Now, their defensive tackles are kind of horrendous. I don't want to say like they're awful, but they're not what you kind of want. Both of them are not even top 150 in any defensive category, which is kind of maybe not even top 250, but all ESPN shows me is 150. So in my mind, I'm saying, hey, you have a tackle that's probably at least top 150. Let's go ahead and pick a D tackle. So the pick is in. I'm going to go with the D tackle with the Chargers with the 23rd pick, and they pick Byron Murphy the second out of Texas.
Wow!
Because he drops to 23.
You see him going to the Chargers instead of LA or the Rams.
Yeah, the Rams. Well, he goes to LA still, but he goes to that different team. Because, I mean, when I saw that D tackle, I was like, do you get best available? Because he probably will be best available here. Or do you get a tackle? So for me, it was like, well, we just got Brock Bowers. And so let's just get a defensive player to add with it. And we'll figure out lineman later. So 24. I'm going to try to keep this as fast as possible. But let's see what I got 24. Okay, cool. Originally, I had the Cowboys reaching.
The running back,
Brooks. Yeah, the running back. Hold up, let me fix this real quick. I had a comma between his name. Boink. Because the Cowboys need a running back almost just as bad as some teams need quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But you see, Dak can throw 40, 50 times a game, need be. He's not exactly like Patrick Mahomes where he doesn't need a running back, but he can sort of do it. He's not Patrick Mahomes yet, but he can sort of do it. Well, my mind is, do they still make this reach? Well, now Tyler Guyton's still on the board, and I was like, well, I kind of like him, especially since you lost, what's his face, Tyron Smith to the Jets. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, to the Jets. You lost him, and so let's replace him. So, Nate, the pick is in, and so they pick Tyler Guyton. I like this pick. Because they just replace him. Because it's one of their needs now.
Yeah.
And if they need to, they can trade up and try to get Jonathan Brooks, or they can see what running backs fall to them in later rounds.
Yeah. I like it.
Because some of the best running backs weren't picked in the first round. Alvin Kamara, for example, was a 3rd round draft pick.
And just amazing running back and went to the right team and the right system.
Yeah, I wish we still had that system, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So let's keep going. 25, MJ, if you're still watching, this is your team, the Green Bay Packers. And originally I've had Cooper DeJean going to this team. After watching him at the Senior Bowl, he didn't have a good year, but after watching him at the Senior Bowl, he was really, really good. He was very good. So I like Tyler Guyton. But if there is a team that's going to draft Cooper DeJean, it's the Green Bay Packers. Now, there's a lot of teams that won't draft this kind of player. And if
Yeah.
you're getting with what I'm hinting at, you can see that we're on the same wavelength. There's a lot of teams that won't draft this kind of player simply because of certain aspects of
Like,
his
that's
game.
a game.
And so, do they stick with somebody? They take this pick. Now, PFF has him as their top cornerback. And I think I've said that before. And although PFF's not the standalone, top cornerback, whatever, the pick is in, Nate. And if there's a team that's going to draft this guy, if he falls, he will probably still go to the next team. They're going to stick with Cooper DeJean. He's been consistent through all 3 mock drafts, and he is a breakdown official draft pick. And so he goes to the Packers at 25. So 26 happens, and the Buccaneers are at 26. And so this is where I had to think, okay, do the Buccaneers go defense or offense with this one? And I've had them picking a wide receiver out of all the mock drafts, but there are a couple good defensive players still there that they might want to replace. They have older guys on their defense Levante David, for example. He's not getting any better, and maybe you want to replace him. It's whatever. If you want to, you want to. But I love picking a wide receiver. For some reason, I just love the Buccaneers picking a wide receiver because you just signed Baker Mayfield to a deal. You still want him to prove himself. And what better to prove himself than adding another weapon to his disposal?
I like AD too. I like him. I like his
So,
game.
Nate, let's be for real. The Bills have had one of the worst off seasons in a minute. So there's a trade alert. Along with one of the worst off season, they have a pretty good stack of draft capital. So they actually go ahead and swap with the Buccaneers and trade for number 26 because they're saying, hey, there's a wide receiver that we want. There's a guy that we want that we don't want the Buccaneers to get. Maybe the Buccaneers don't draft a wide receiver, but they know that it's a need for for Tampa Bay. And so when a team knows that, hey, this is a need for this team, we don't want to take the chances of, if we got a guy on our minds, we want this guy. And so if you got that same guy on your mind, you might not draft him. We want to make sure 100% that you're not going to draft him. So we're going to trade up. And so the number 26 pick, the Buffalo Bills select Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver out of LSU. That's their guy. And so they trade up to make sure they get him.
Some quality receivers in this draft. There's some really good quality receivers in this draft.
Oh, I love it. But, as good as you like, if you like Xavier Worthy, I didn't have him in the first round. Although he's very skillful,
He's fast.
He's fast, but he's good at route running. But he wasn't even number one wide receiver on his team, and the number one wide receiver on his team hadn't gone yet. So we'll see. 27, Nate. 27. We're almost there. I know. We're almost there. I apologize I try not to speak too loud in case my mic clips. And I'll get a mic. I'll get a mic eventually, so don't worry about that. But 27 originally is the Arizona Cardinals, and they pick Latu, but Latu's off the board. Now I have him going a lot higher now. I had him fall because of his combine, and then
combine workout.
It just wasn't amazing. But let's think of somebody who had a pretty good, amazing combine. Now, although they wanted an edge right here, they want an outside linebacker. There is an outside linebacker that I had just stumbled across the other day that I was like, wow, how have I not put him in the top first round yet? And I was watching his film and I was looking at him. I was like, man, this guy's good. This guy's really good. He's another edge. Nate, do you want to guess what the fastest 40 time for amongst the edges were this past combine?
4.4.
Okay, but let's be a little bit more specific. 4.4.
Flat.
Nah, too fast.
4.45.
Good 4.48.
Okay.
Now, when you have that type of speed, we could take the 8 off and say 4.4. Hey, he's not touching the 5 yet. We can say 4.4, and a 4.440 is dang good for an edge. Now, we're going to take that into consideration. We're going to say, hey, as good as he is with speed, let's see his game. Now, I wanted to take the same kind of science I had with Xavier Worthy, saying, hey, his first player, the first best wide receiver is not picked yet. Even though he was a starting wide receiver, let's go to the edge. Let's see his game. Now, I want to watch his game, see if he is actually the best defensive player on his team. And so I'm thinking if he's not, he's pretty close to it. And the Arizona Cardinals select Chop Robinson, the
Ooh,
edge out of
I
Penn
forgot, you know
State.
what? I forgot
And
about
I
him.
forgot about him too. I stumbled across him. I said, wait a minute, this guy ran a 4.48, the fastest amongst all edges in the combine. And I had just looked at him. Then I looked at his film and I said, okay, this is going to be the dude that Arizona picks at number 27. And I could see him going to 26 too. I could see him going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers if they don't want to trade back. That's the risk you have to take. If the Buccaneers side, they want to trade back with the Bills and then Arizona picks their guy, that's the risk you have to take if somebody gives you the right price. So let's go to 28. Originally, the Bills are at 28. You know, they traded, got Brian Thomas Jr. Let's just make this quick and easy. Let's say the pick is in, Nate. Let's make it quick and easy. And they stick with AD. They pick Adonai Mitchell out of Texas. The Buccaneers going to stay with Adonai Mitchell. I like a wide receiver to Tampa Bay.
And he's going to get tutored by Mike Evans, one of the best ever. So, yeah.
Even though they don't need one, it's the same thing with why the Packers have been so great in the past. And I hate to give them the credit if MJ's watching. They don't draft need. They draft best available. And if this is the best available at the time, you might not need a wide receiver, but you have somebody that's only going to be there for 2 more years, in Mike Evans. Let's have somebody learn under him. Especially the dude that has the most 1,000-yard consecutive receiving seasons. Let's pick AD Mitchell out of Texas.
Okay.
And so this next pick, the Detroit Lions are on the clock, and this is another pick that stayed consistent when I first saw it. Darius Robinson, and this is I'm saying I'm giving myself credit for this pick because the more I watch people's final mock drafts, the more they're picking this guy going to the Lions. But I've said it since the first mock draft. Go back and watch it. And so I like him to Detroit. Having him on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson is going to be hard for those quarterbacks. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be scary. So let's make it short and quick. The pick is in. This is going to be an official breakdown draft pick because he's going to stay consistent through all the mock drafts. Darius Robinson's staying in Detroit. He's going to Detroit. If this is going to be, he was a Tiger in college, but he's about to be the leader of the pride in the NFL, and he's going to go to the Lions.
That's right.
So Nate, I hope you're thirsty because originally the Ravens picked Kool-Aid McKinstry. I don't know how much you like Kool-Aid. I loved Kool-Aid growing up.
Tropical Punch one. That was the blue pouch.
The blue pouch, I think that was my favorite. The blue pouch. Number 2 was strawberry kiwi.
Yes, that was
red. I loved. Now I couldn't get behind cherry or grape. I didn't like those growing up. For some reason, I don't like grape artificial flavored stuff, and I don't like cherry artificial flavored stuff. So I just couldn't get behind them. But those two, the blue and the green, they were bangers. Sometimes we'd get the lemonade ones. The lemonade ones, you put them in a pitcher. Well, the Ravens need a cornerback, and they're not going to pick a player like Cooper DeJean. And so we saw Terrion Arnold already go. We say, hey, this guy's the best cornerback off Alabama. He's already gone. But as good as he was in Alabama, there was another sheriff in town in the cornerback position, and that's Kool-Aid McKinstry.
That's true.
So the pick is in, and the Ravens are a little thirsty. The flock's a little thirsty. And they pick Kool-Aid McKinstry. They stay with it and pick him out of Alabama. And I like this pick. I say they stick with it. And so now we've gotten to the last 2 picks. And so San Fran, after watching some clips from last season, originally I had them picking a D tackle. They ended up signing one. And so then the second one I had them picking J.C. Latham. Well, the Saints might have picked him at 14, excuse me. And so now he's off the board.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Rob might need to be listening for this pick because I had to go into some careful consideration if I was going to have them pick another tackle or if they were going to pick another position. But after seeing a lot of – Brock Purdy has this thing where as good as he was last season, he has this thing where he likes to kind of step up into pressure. And so as I was watching it, although it's not entirely the tackle's fault, The tackle was not able to hold that defender long enough for Brock Purdy to take that step into that throw to the direction he wanted to throw it to without being pressured, making an inaccurate pass. Well, that tackle, it wasn't Trent Williams. It was a guy on the other side. So I was like, well, you know what? Let's pick somebody that might not happen. Well, Brock Purdy's still inexperienced. He's still young. He's still learning. And although that is not entirely on the tackle, let's pick somebody that might give him a little bit more extra time. Rob, I hope you're listening. I picked Amarius Mims, tackle out of Georgia, for this pick for San
Oh,
Fran.
okay.
And
Uh,
so,
that makes good sense. I mean, on the opposite side, again, the opposite side of Trent Williams, you need somebody that's going to be reliable. You want to have somebody that's going to be reliable. That protect those edges. That can protect those edges and not essentially make the like let the pocket collapse. So I mean, I like that pick.
and he's a righty, so he's going to naturally want to go to the right to throw the ball. And if you don't have a protector on that right side, then it's going to be difficult. And although I said it's not entirely up to that tackle, Brock Purdy is still, he shouldn't step up into pressure. He didn't have a lot of time to step up. So we're going to pick a tackle to replace it on the right side. And I like this pick. Rob does too. So the last pick of the 2024 NFL Draft. It's the last pick. So originally I had Keon Coleman from Florida State going to the Chiefs.
Wide receiver.
I said, hey, you just got Hollywood Brown. Even though Hollywood Brown is a deep threat, he's not the biggest body. And naturally, you want somebody who's going to be a deep threat to be sort of a big body. Because if you want somebody to go up and catch a jump ball, you don't want a 5'9" Hollywood Brown, 5'10", whatever he is. You want like a 6'3", 6'4" dude going up and catching that ball. So Keon Coleman was my first instinct, and he has been my first instinct for the last mock drafts. And I'm a man who likes to trust his gut. I'm a man who likes to trust his instinct. In a lot of these picks, I've had them go in all three mock drafts. We saw it with Darius Robinson. We saw it with, we could say A.D. Mitchell and Brian Thomas. Even though they got traded, they still went to the same teams. We saw it with Nate Wiggins and Cooper DeJean. Well, let's see it with this last pick in the NFL Draft. So the last pick in the 2024 first round of the NFL Draft is going to stay Keon Coleman out of Florida State. I like to trust my gut, and I like to think back to when me and my friend were talking about Florida State last season. He always used to tell me, hey, Connor, look, when you watch Keon Coleman, it's a 50-50 ball, a jump ball. It's never 50-50 with Keon Coleman. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. That ball is simply called a Keon Coleman ball, and he will be the last pick of the first round in the 2024 NFL Draft.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you right here.
You want Xavier Worthy, don't you?
Nope. Kansas City's gonna trade out of the first round.
You think so?
Somebody's gonna want that number 32nd overall pick, and I think Kansas City's gonna be looking to shop that pick.
So who do you think is going to be Nate Nessy?
I don't know. It depends on who's going to trade for it. If I had to pick somebody that has some good draft capital in the second and third round.
Well, we still have Bo Nix left. Somebody's that eager to get it. We get it, Rob. We get it, Rob. They were undefeated, ended up being crybabies about it, went in and lost the single worst postseason deficit in college history. We know that. But, that doesn't mean they don't have good players. And Keon Coleman's a good ball. And maybe Kansas City might trade out of the I was looking at it, and I don't know the last time that the 32nd overall pick's been traded out. Usually it's that first pick in the second round that gets traded.
No, it's depending on who. Because remember, the last time I could think of, Baltimore traded back up to the first round. That 32nd pick, if you can get some, that's what I said. Depending on what team has some good draft capital in the second and third round, you can go ahead and take that as a flyer.
But if it's not a high second rounder, I don't see Kansas City taking this deal
You got a point.
because they won't take somebody out of the top 50. They won't take that deal.
Yeah.
I can't see them taking that deal. Because I mean, you still have what, Xavier Worthy on the board. You still have good wide receivers on the board, and if Kansas City trades down, they still want to get one of those wide receivers. And if they can get that trading down into the top half of the second round, they will do that. But Nate, that was it for my mock draft.
Hey, you did a heck of a job,
Enjoyed it.
Connor. You did a heck
Now, I
of a
wish
job.
I could be more energetic, but my microphone level just will not allow me to do so. I wish I had one of them nice little ASMR microphones. I could like do
Mhm.
this with it and like kind of do some ASMR for us. But Nate, is there anything you'd like to say
Your
before
draft,
we kind of round off the show?
your draft was damn good.
I appreciate that. I did trades this time. I thought about it.
Yeah. And that's the trickiest part right there because we never know. Like, you can, like, again, for instance, the Chargers at the 5 pick, again, you never know what a team is going to do. Whether you never know what a team's going to do and how desperate the opposing team is going to give up in order to acquire that draft spot. So I love it. I love your draft. You did a hell of a job.
Thank you, Nate. And I appreciate you giving me the time to explain the picks and do all this with you on the show. It means a lot. And I thought we'd go a little bit longer, and we still will. But I want to kind of give you the reins now. And I want to well, let me set the tone first. I got to set the tone. Turn it down just a little bit. You know what I really want to do before I set the tone, before I channel my inner Ricky Williams? I'm sorry, I know you heard that. I really wanted to put the jingle up, like when the pick is in, it goes, it was like, oh man,
It goes.
kind of, yeah, it's like a little, like a da-da-da. Wait, how does it go, man? I can't even think because I listened to it like twice today and I still can't even think. But anyways, I wanted to put the jingle up, but I didn't want to get copyright, so I didn't do it. Because I could have sang it. I could have been like, dun 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 dun, or however it goes. Rob, you can sing it for me if you want to. But let me set the tone. Let me channel my inner Ricky Williams. I just wanted to point that out. I'm sorry. And Nate, I want to introduce the last segment of the show. New week, new chapter. And now it is you.
Okay.
It's all up in you.
Good.
So you want me to put up the?
Oh yeah, let's get the word. Don't get the word first. Now I know for a fact that we've used before, but today it was in my my study time, and again, this is God speaking to me in that moment in meditation, that we give thanks in all circumstances. For this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. 1 Thessalonians 5, and it hit me. Give thanks no matter what it is. Whether the day is good, whether the day is bad, you give thanks for everything. We can't be individuals and followers who, again, only want to praise God and thank God for when things are going great. They have to be humble enough to thank Him for when the things aren't going so good, because there's ultimately something that's being taught and get passed to us. So I love to give thanks in all aspects of it, whether it's a great day, whether it's a so great. One, I control how my day is going. Control your mind and your thoughts, and so you can allow small things that are meaningless and minor to mess up your day and mess up your stance, but not me. Again, being thankful and giving thanks to God, because again, somebody woke up. You woke up this morning, and somebody didn't. Somebody, you're healthy. You have a roof over your head. Somebody is in rough health, and somebody they're homeless. So it's always giving thanks, and no matter what, in all circumstances, because again, you never know what somebody's going through, and that's the mindset you got to have. You got to have a mindset of gratitude and humility, not a mindset of just being inconsiderate and arrogant. You know what I'm saying, and unappreciative. So, reading that today, and it just really sat in my spirit. It was just like, you know what, That's what we need to talk about. It's an attitude of gratitude.
Like SpongeBob says. Have you seen that episode? SpongeBob.
Reference.
He sings a squid. He's like, you gotta have an attitude of gratitude. Just like the little arm farts with the trash can people.
Yeah.
SpongeBob's so goated. That's the single greatest cartoon ever.
Yeah.
At me. But I mean, Nate, I'll let you finish.
Nah, Connor. It's your turn to close this.
You want me to close it out?
Yeah.
I
I can't do this by myself. I won't do this by myself. That day that you spoke, and it was just like it was fire. And I'm like, you know what, Connor, I'll give the word. You'll give the prayer. You're gonna close this out and send it on the right way. You're gonna send everybody that's watching. You're gonna give them a prayer that we all needed. So go ahead, Connor. Give us that gravy.
Well, let's go back to that word and that prayer, kind of link them together because I kind of got a little similarities in the prayer. But let's go in prayer, and I'm going to say, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, I thank you for this day and letting us just come together and talk football. And we have the draft coming up, and whatever happens, it's just going to be your will. Whatever those players, whatever teams and situations they go to, it'll be your will because we're going to give thanks in every circumstance we have. And not just us, but everybody there. You know, if a player decides to go somewhere he does not want to necessarily go to, he still needs to give thanks because it'll be your will. And so with us today, we just need to give thanks in all circumstances. And we look back and say, hey, we all sin and the mistakes we made, but we all fall short of you, Lord. But we can say one thing for sure is these mistakes were so perfect at what they were chosen to do, Lord, that we need to give thanks in even the circumstances where we sin, where we make these mistakes, because eventually it will go our way. Eventually we'll be on that path that say, hey, even though we hit a bump in the road, we'll still got on that path to you, Lord, at the end of the day. Because like I said, these mistakes were so perfect at what they were chosen to do that it is all your will at the end of the day. There is nothing that happens in our lives that we need to be not thankful for. We should be thankful at everything that happens because you, Lord, give your toughest battles to your strongest soldiers. And so with that in mind, we need to make sure that, hey, we're going to be the strongest soldiers out there. We're going to be the ones that don't let a man behind, that fight for what we believe in. And we believe in you, Lord. So give us the strength, give us the passion, give us the courage to go and fight for you, because that's where we need to do at the end of the day. Because what's your will is your will. And even though we make these mistakes, we sin, go farther from you, Lord. You keep us on that string. You keep us closer to you. Because when times get tough, we know that we can have you to fall back on. Because although we're the soldier that doesn't leave our man behind, you're the soldier that never leaves us behind. You always put us on your shoulder and trudge through that battlefield, no matter where we're going to go. And so, Lord, I thank you for letting us and taking us to where we need to go, and hopefully giving the insight and the answers that these people need, that maybe they don't know where you're taking them, Lord. But as long as we just trust and stay on your shoulders, we know that we're going to get there one day. And so I pray that you give those people the strength to get them there. So, Lord, I thank you again for letting us come here, and Nate giving me the option and the outlet to sit here and pray, Lord, because it's something that I'm so passionate that I love to do. And so until next Tuesday, until we come back here and praise you again, just make sure that we do in this next week everything that you want us to, and that we follow you. Until then, we pray in your Son's holy and perfect name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Nate, for letting me pray. I don't know what I'm going to pray about when it happens, but, when the word pops up, I'll just pray. It's from the heart. I try not to try to do my prayers beforehand, because I want it to come from the heart rather than the brain. So I think I did a pretty good job of that. I heard you saying, oh, yes, amen. It's like I was in a church raising the hands, and getting there. And I appreciate you, Nate. I appreciate you saying that, hey, you don't want to do this by yourself. What's up?
Hold on. Hey, my son is on right now. I got my son on the phone right now.
Oh, is he?
What you run?
A 22?
22 what?
Like an 8? 22 8? 22 7?
You did that. What'd you place?
First?
Ooh.
First. Did you get it on? Did you get it on?
Huh?
Did you get recorded?
I think so.
Okay. Hold on. Hey, y'all, this is my son Tyler right here, y'all. This is my son Tyler. Everybody, this is my son Tyler. Tell him
What's
what
up,
you ran.
Tyler?
Tell him what you ran.
I ran a 22 7.
22.7 and a 200.
I'm
200.
What does that equate to in like 40 time? I don't know much track terms.
I'll get that for a 40 time. I'll do that for a 40. I'll get his 40 time.
Okay, because I know that. If he got first place, that's fast.
He got first place, and because I sent you the video. Remember, I sent you the video.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch it after the show. I didn't want to put it on in the show here.
Okay.
But Nate, let's. Speedy. Yeah, he is speedy.
Tyler, you fast.
Speedy.
Tyler, you fast.
Let's wrap up this show, Nate. Is there anything you'd like to say before we kind of go off?
Nah, I'm just excited. My son
Just
is
a proud dad.
Proud. He works hard. He works really hard.
Oh yeah.
He works really hard.
Get first place in state.
Yeah, like
Part of state, right?
He's good. Hey, I'm proud of you, fella. I'm proud. I'm gonna close this out and I'm gonna call you right back. Oh my God.
Proud dad.
Yeah, he did.
First place at state. That's in California too.
In California.
Golly, and the athletes out there.
Ooh.
But Nate, is there anything you'd like to say before we shut it off?
Hey, y'all, we're gonna have Tyler on the show, man. Thank you, everybody, for watching us. Thank you. I am at a loss for words. I am at a complete loss for words.
Let's try and have him on next week.
I'm speechless.
If we can.
I am speechless right now. I am speechless.
Well, I'll talk for you then, Nate. Nate's just trying to say that he just appreciates every single person coming out to watch us every Tuesday. And although it was a little bit of a longer, long-winded episode of the breakdown, we got the job done. And, I couldn't do this alone. I couldn't do it without my NFL 5-year veteran, the man, the myth, the legend. And so, until next Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll have Tyler next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Schedule permitting.
I'm gonna talk to him. I'm gonna talk to him.
And so I'm your co-host Connor Davis. We'll see you next Tuesday. Tell you about the results of the draft. That'll be fun. And Nate's gonna be right here, and we'll see you then.